Yes, we are back. This episode, we interview Sensational and a handful of his associates. Kool Keith is back with Weird Rap Horoscopes. And I got a bunch of new music reviews for ya. First, I want to talk about Tokyo Cigar. His new album, The Mega Man Theory 5, From the Stoop to the Stupa, is fantastic. From the beats to the vocals, this dude is really in a world of his own, and I've been a fan of his for a while, but this album for me is excellent. So I just want to announce from the hilltops, everyone who cares about rap music should listen to this album. Once again, Tokyo Cigar, From the Stoop to the Stupa.
My right hand quick, let the Dutchie twist, sit the lotus fist, meditate quick, generating shit.
Marrow, the man with the most ogreish voice in hip-hop, has a new EP called Forthcoming, produced by Grosso Gadgetto. Highly recommended.
Like what I reflect might detonate your retina. I am blowing kaleidoscope off nerves converged. A nine-eyed cyclops with your sideline of sidewalk blurbs. Sayonara, sign off works. Yo. From beginning we swimming at the part when the harpoon and the shark fin cartoon grinning. Driven surpassed 1,000 lap winning. Spit pinning, mic stripping, making nice.
Links to this and all of the releases, by the way, are in the show notes at weird.substack.com. And wherever else you find show notes. Now, Del, the Funky Homo Sapien, and Kool Keith have put out an album as Funk Pimpin' under the title Subatomic. This has proven to be a pretty divisive album. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. I love it. I think that Keith's beats, which are kind of ugly, brutal, and minimalist, work perfectly under Del, who is expertly stretching himself in really interesting ways. Lyrically, he's just on the usual battle rap tip, but sonically, I think Del just has a great voice, a great rhythm, and I was pleasantly surprised by this album.
Covered up with dirt and rocks. Was living in the pandemic way in the 80s. Zombies walking past churches, chicken burnt to a crispy. They love them some hover rocks. Homies used to hug the block, always running from the cops. Savage land, flying dinosaurs, swooping on you dummies who dare post with diamonds on. I was born to be a...
Oh, now, possibly what I'm most excited about right now is Psych Nah. They have 4 EPs on their Bandcamp, which are all highly recommended, highly strange, just bizarre rap music in the best way possible.
Time is ticking, I line up with the diviners, I line up the wicked. Chin checking for disrespecting those who kicked in their gates of heaven to let us in. Came through the back door so long, feel like 1954. Now I'm in the center floor, it's time to meet your destroyer. It's over for you niggas.
And Do Normal. I revisited all of her work recently, and while I was impressed initially, I think I had to re-listen to it in order to fully wrap my head around it, because it is very unique. It's something quite different. She has a new EP out with Ghost Producer called Rap ASMR, which, you know, caught my attention and had me going back to visit her full discography, which is just 2 albums. They're both awesome.
I do. Wait, I have a mama that's from Africa. My daddy was a Trini Suriname and a Dutch man too. Go rooster, I'll be going home. I'm through. Give me a booster, give me another reason why I'm through.
I don't see no cameras. I don't see no cameras. I don't see no cameras.
Last but not least, I want to tell you about Staple Mouth and the Mole. Their new project, Rift, is out on Weird Rap Records. in association with Cane Corso Records and Superior Belly. All right, full disclosure, I am the mole, so talking about myself in the third person here, so whatever. It's a cassette tape. The A side is mostly Staple Mouth's vocals with a little bit of ambience, atmospheric background noise, and very sparse instrumentation.
I made the dying breed, nothing less than landscape of hope. In the field of damaged seeds, I'm just letting it happen. It ain't mean much to me, but the playground of the ashes is in the all I see. Father Time got his fingers trapped in the gears to make him tick. It's time to clock out and take a recess in another stream. Click. Just sitting in the ashes of what remains. The world stopped spinning and the winds have changed. The tides poured the blood out of the earth and the sky went purple when the sun started to bleed.
While the B-side is instrumentals. It is the prelude to the Estuary album, which is when the beats and the vocals will actually meet. You can order the limited edition cassette tape. We've only made 50 of them. There's about 40 some of them left at this point at weirdrap.bandcamp.com. If you get it, you also get 10% off of the vinyl, the forthcoming album, Estuary, which is coming out later this year. That's at weirdrap.bandcamp.com, where we also have a lot of other great music.
Yeah. It's the weird rap horoscopes of Kool Keith. Check your horoscope. Aries, put mustard in your ears. Taurus, wear your pants inside out. It's cool. Geminis, smack your face with flip-flops. Cancers, invent a new life form. Leos, smoke some cornflakes. Virgos, turn yourself into the FBI. Libras, bake a doodle cake. Scorpios, put your head in the garbage. Sagittarius, wear some condoms as socks. Capricorns, become a river dancer. Aquarius, eat a boiled banana. Pisces, sprinkle cinnamon into the sea.
And now, our feature presentation, Sensational, if you don't know, is one of the first and weirdest MCs to experiment with noise and really created his own sound around 1997 when he first released his debut album. Prior to that, he worked with the Jungle Brothers on their famed Crazy Wisdom Masters album that was shelved for being too strange by Warner Brothers. He appeared also on their JB's with the Remedy album, but really created his own lane when he debuted on Wordsound Records with his Loaded with Power album. In the years since then, noise rap has become a thing, but I feel like in many ways he was the first to really do it. And to this day remains a pretty singular artist. He really seems to operate on his own plane. A lot of the questions I asked him in the interview, he just was unable to answer, it seems like, because he seems to really live in the moment and not overthink his art. I think that's part of what makes him such a great artist, is he just is being who he is. And he's not intellectualizing it. He's not thinking about it. He's just doing it. And that is why I employed several other people in this interview to talk about him and to sort of help intellectualize his work and illustrate who he is as an artist and a person. So besides Sensational, we have Skiz Fernando of Wordsound, aka Specter. We got Guy Albino of Hard Gangster Rappers MCs with Ghatz. We got Liz Moore, who directed the Rise and Fall and Rise of Sensational. That's the documentary on Sensational, which I highly recommend. I talked to Kev Hutch, friend of Sensational ever since the 90s. And I talked to Adam Feingold, who is the co-producer of Sensational's forthcoming album. So here he is, Sensational!
I'm from Guyana. What city?
You were born there?
Yeah, I was born in Guyana. I came over here like when I was 1. Grew up in Brooklyn. And I just been that Brooklyn dude ever since. DT Brooklyn dude, yeah.
You have 2 brothers, right?
Well, I have more bros now, but I grew up with like 2 brothers. My brothers, what's up, y'all? That's it. Holla.
One of your brothers, Kenny, I think, described you as a mischievous kid. Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
Can you give any examples?
I wonder what he meant.
He said they knew early on you weren't someone who was going to fit in and be just like a average Joe. Like you've told me yourself, I think you described yourself as King Weirdo the other day.
Yeah.
When did you first realize that you were different than most people?
Well, I always had my way of like doing shit. How did I figure out I was weird? Well, that's a good question.
Like, let's talk about, your earliest memories of going to school, your earliest memories with your brothers, like, did you feel like a part of the group, or did you feel like you were somehow left out, or just have like a different approach to things?
It was like I was a part of the group, but I was in my own lane. I had my own lane type shit.
For children perpetrating to be a villain, pen to Philly, strength up the touchies, bouncer, champion is the issue, qualification is the lingo, the beat in your ear hole. I move the party like an earthquake, don't like a circulating milkshake spliff, construct, specialize in AI every time I build the subject matter thrill. If you wildin', slip up.
As an adult, you seem like you are kind of like, you're always laughing, you seem like you have this kind of a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Maybe not taking things as seriously as other people might.
I used to totally be like that, like laughing all the time. But this world kind of made that kind of tainted.
I hear you. Yeah, you've gone through some things. We'll get to that.
This world made that kind of tainted, but it's still in me though. I'm still like, that bubbly guy.
Yeah. From what I understand, some of your early musical influences were that your uncle was in a calypso band. He used to rehearse in your basement.
Yeah. My late uncle, Becca Rose, what up? Him and his band used to be in my basement, like rocking out. And I used to go down there and play with their equipment when nobody was there. It's like fucking with the drums and shit like that. Not knowing I was on to something back then. I was just like a natural, I was like a natural rhythm. I'm a natural rhythm.
So this is like, what, 5 years old or so? You're messing around with instruments?
I'm probably like 10. Wow, I really don't know about my timing, my age back then. I just see the time, I never was the type to like follow my age and shit.
Yeah. So continuing on with your early musical exploration, I understand you used to mess around with records, with your dad's records, trying to scratch and stuff.
Yeah. Just fuck around and shit. Well, that shit was a natural thing, My music career is a natural thing.
Yeah.
My music can create let me try to sound like him, you know what I'm saying, loop that beat or sample that beat. Nah, buddy. My shit was like from the air to your ear.
Can you talk about how you first came to rapping, how you first started it, and what influenced that?
How did I start? It was like a natural thing, being around some of my peoples, my friends and stuff like that. Growing up in my hood, in Brooklyn, Prospect Heights. I just know this group called Four Wise Men.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Who were those guys? I couldn't find any info.
Well, one of them was from my hood, my boy Ken. Peace to my homie Ken. I used to while out with him, and he grew up with Africa from the Jungle Brothers.
Yeah.
And somehow, I don't remember how I met him, but I met him through Ken. And, we started vibing. The Jungle Brothers inspired me a lot. My boy Af, I like his beats he used to do. I see him get busy on beats. You heard? And I started crafting my style on beats in a little instant way. Because back then, and still now, it's like everybody was like into like sampling and shit like that. You heard?
Yeah, yeah. And I know you had a different approach.
Yeah, my approach was like, shit, I'm doing me too. I got some shit. You know what I'm saying? It was like a sampling was alright, but I could do my shit, yo. 1, 2, boom, boom, boom. You heard?
As I do the caper with my pad, I program the drum beat to make you move your feet. Check these bump melodies, you hear them dirty words, speak like graffiti, arithmetic, hip hop, lunatic, ballistic on the track. Shows how I rock, sensational greetings. Avoid click, licking, that paper is getting touched, the ink.
So it was with the Jungle Brothers that you first started making beats then, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you say you were inspired by them, but from what I understand, you inspired them as well. It seemed like during the Crazy Wisdom Masters, you guys were getting into some real experimental new kind of territory.
Right.
Can you take us back to that time and, talk about what was influencing all of that?
Well, I guess for me, it was like the natural of creativity,
Yeah. How about Bill Laswell? What role did he play in this era?
We recorded like most fit in the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, yo. It's like, when I came into this music game, man, I kind of put it. I didn't know the Jungle Brothers as the Jungle Brothers.
So you weren't really familiar with their music, is what you're saying?
Nah, not. It's like this, right? One time we had a session, and we in the studio with Bootsy Collins.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And I didn't really know who Bootsy Collins was. You feel me?
Yeah.
I was such my own little world and shit. As I look back at all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? Wow, I was like chilling with Bootsy, playing with his guitar and shit like that. I played Bootsy Collins guitar. What's up?
Wow. So yeah, at the time you're saying you didn't realize you were hanging out with legends.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And probably so the same with like Prince Paul. You've done a bit of work with him too.
Yeah.
You've worked with a lot of pretty amazing musicians. Do you hold any of it in like high regard? Like, wow, I actually did that. Like, you should feel accomplished.
I feel proud starting with the Jungle Brothers. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Because that music was amazing. That stuff that you guys made, I finally had the chance to hear the album that was never released. It's great. So yeah, I guess that kind of kickstarted you into working as a solo artist after that, huh?
Yeah, I got the rhythm buzz. Yes, sir.
you were really like in a zone of your own at that time as far as how you were approaching production.
Yeah, matter of fact, at that time, my name was Torture.
Yeah.
And then I was Tortured for a little bit. That was like my style, but it wasn't.
Yeah, you were still growing, I guess, into something else or what?
Yeah. Sensational.
How did you come to that name?
I don't know. I just felt like calling myself Sensational one day.
Just hit you like a beam of light?
Yeah, like that shit sound. That's totally me.
Can you talk about how you were approaching making beats? Like why you chose, instead of doing what other people did, sampling records, you would walk around with a handheld recorder and record the streets and stuff? And
I guess it was a moment I didn't want to go through. I don't know, but
were you just working with like what came naturally to you, or were you purposefully going against the grain?
I was just naturally going against the grain.
Make more, spend money to make more. On my soul, I float with the green like action. Crave for satisfaction, spend that late night. You wanna dumb out, but I'm stupid, so that shit don't add up. Any crashing I did is when I first learned how to ride a bike. Dance for Navigator. Dance for Navigator.
Now here we have Skiz Fernando, aka Specter of Wordsound Recordings. He released Sensational's debut album and proceeded to work pretty extensively with him for quite a few years after that.
I think the word genius is thrown around a lot too easily these days, but you know, I met Sensational when he was a teenager, man, and you know, I've never seen anything like this dude, like, especially like the way he recorded Loaded with Power, his first album. And, you know, he had done plenty of music before that, but I actually saw how he did that record with the minimal of equipment. And, you know, everyone knows that he recorded the vocals through headphones plugged into the mic jack. That's why the lyrics sound so dusted. To me, that's like a hardcore punk album.
Yeah.
But like a hip hop version of a hardcore punk album, you know, like there's some really abrasive cuts on there, like skit and scattering. You know, that whole album was taken off cassette. He did it on a 4-track, and then I just came over to the bomb shelter, which was his house, and I came over with my little portable DAT. But he did all his stuff there, and like his bedroom. It was just like a little closet. It was knee deep in clothes. Like you walk in and there's just like clothes knee deep. And then there's like a bare mattress like thrown on top of the clothes.
The bomb shelter.
But his approach to music is just like truly artistic. I would describe him as the Lee Perry of hip hop because it's so unorthodox. You know, we used to work together every night pretty much, you know, and half the time I didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Like, and it would kind of give me a headache, the stuff he was sampling and the way he would make noises. And he never knew what he sampled. He would just pick up a random record and then just like drop the needle and then, sample that. You know? And that's another thing that I picked up from him. It doesn't matter what you sample. It doesn't matter. You know how there's like crate diggers who are like, we got to get this loop from this 1969 rare bootleg pressing of, you know, Rare Earth or something like that. He was totally the anti-crate digger. That's really a skill to like just take any sound. Somehow when it all came together, it was like, wow, all right, you know, now I see it. So he's got some kind of amazing creative vision, and that's what makes him a true genius, you know, because like other people can't really understand him, but when you see the process and when you see what comes out of it, the end product is just like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. And I'm talking about a kid who was a teenager, you know, with no musical training. And even like before Wordsound, he was down with the Jungle Brothers, you know, and those guys are like, to me, those guys are hip hop royalty. Yeah. Those guys are like my age, you know, and for them to take him on and like be looking at him for inspiration, that says a lot, you know, that says a lot. So yeah, artistically, I give it up for Sensational completely. And I personally have learned a lot from him too, you know. And just the whole concept of noise as music. That's one of his real strengths, is just taking noise, just pure sound often, like the first track we did, which is on a Black Hood's 10-inch. I think it's called Smoke It Exact. It was the first Black Hood's 10-inch I put out. He wasn't even Sensational at the time. He was Torture. And I invited him over to my house one day, and that was the first time he came over. And I had been working on a beat. I went to let him in, and he immediately hears the beat, and he's like nodding his head. He doesn't even say hello. The first thing he said to me is, "Yo, turn on the mic." And we just immediately, that's basically how our collaboration started. He immediately starts, he's just tuned into music and sound. And on that track, he used to carry around a little portable cassette deck and record just random sounds in the city and on the subway. And that particular day, he had recorded the sound of the subway door closing. It makes a beep. Ding, ding. Yeah. And we actually sampled that sound off cassette, and it's on that track. It's in like the chorus. And he made it musical because we sampled it and then he played it on the keys. So that ding, ding sound becomes yeah. And if you look at his lyrics, man, his lyrics are actually really cool. It might sound like he's not saying much. I wouldn't call them like conscious lyrics or anything, but he's saying something, man. And he drops some funny verses, like slip and slide like lubrication from the crime scene. That could be me, president of the disco, sensational. It's just like.
Yeah, he's got some amazing turns of phrase.
And, when he writes lyrics, he writes them right on the spot. You know how a lot of rappers have like rhyme books?
Yeah.
Sensational would just like write on whatever thing was handy right then and there. And it was just like chicken scratch. Like when I looked at it, I couldn't even like understand what the fuck it was. And then like he didn't even save it.
How would you describe him just as a person?
As a person, for the most part, he's a really nice guy. He's pretty laid back, especially, when he's, smoked out, which is pretty much his default setting is smoked out.
Yeah.
But he's also kind of a Jekyll and Hyde character because, like, when he drinks and shit, becomes a totally another beast. And that's like the dark side of Sensational, I would say, because I've seen that too much on tour. Like, that dude just goes on a rampage when he's drunk. He's hard to handle, man. And, I've had to deal with it way too many times. Like one tour of Europe we took a lot of trains, and I would pay him after each show. And like once he was just fucked up and just like ripping up euros and just throwing them in the aisle, just like, it's just like, who does shit like that,
Wow.
Yeah, aside from going on tour where, I had to deal with a lot of shit, it was actually kind of fun hanging out with them. It's like during the 90s, he was an endless source of entertainment and amusement. And, he's like a character in hip hop, like Kool Keith or Old Dirty Bastard or Ram LZ, like one of these real iconoclasts who just like basically free spirit. They do what they want. They say what they want, unfiltered, unorthodox. I think generally he's a really nice guy, and he's respectful. That's why we worked together for so long, because I don't deal with people that I don't like, or I don't deal with assholes, so.
I don't know if he's always this way, but he's not real like talkative when it comes to answering questions about himself,
Yeah, that's true. I've known the guy for years, and very little does he talk about his personal situation. I know his family and his brothers and shit like that, but little does he talk about his personal life or growing up and shit like that.
Yeah, one thing I keep coming back to through my talk with him and my talk with others is he seems just very in the moment. Like there's not a lot of planning or reflecting.
Yeah, that's totally it. And also, he doesn't give a fuck what people think of him, or he has no shame. You know, he'll do whatever the fuck he wants, when he wants. And like you said, totally in the moment. And that's a great way to live, because most of us can't live like that. You know, most of us are like worried about this or worried about that, or we're stressing out about past shit or anxious about future shit. He's a total free spirit.
I was just fucking doing what I do.
So you're not really comparing yourself to other people very much then?
Nah, not really.
Would you say there's any influence though, like when you're like listening to your beat and be like, this sounds different than this, or this reminds me of?
It's real shit. I look like beats, like the RZA, like the intenseness of it.
Yeah, I could hear something in common there.
Who else I was rocking to like that?
Like I heard you used to freestyle over some like real weird shit, like Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, the experimental composer.
I don't even know. I probably didn't know who it was or whatever. It was probably just, I don't know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like chilling with Bootsy Collins, you know? And Mudbone.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious how your production style kind of changed over the years.
It really didn't change, you know?
Because to me as a listener, I remember hearing your first two albums, I think 99 or something. Then you came out with the third one, Heavyweighter. And on Heavyweighter, it seemed like you had...
But on some other shit, I don't think people know about my production skills.
Tell us about it.
Well, how can I put it? Everybody's like into my vocals, my tone of voice type shit, like other producers.
Right. You're saying there's people all over the place contacting you, like, how can I get a verse? You know, I want Sensational on my beats, but people aren't as much saying, like, I want a Sensational beat for my project.
Yeah, something like that.
I would disagree with you, though. The fans, they know you as a great producer.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong with that. But, yeah, I got to catch up to the other shit I already did before y'all get in. I mean, y'all got to go back, go through that change. My other chapters. Yeah, I'm missing some shit I done did, yo. Like on my Bandcamp page.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the beginning, the foundation of the story with like your first few albums. But yeah, we're going to get to that for sure. You've put out like probably, 20 more albums, 25 albums?
I need to catch up.
I have caught up. I've listened to probably everything you've put out.
I'm a natural, bro.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, I feel like I hear a difference from the beginning to even just to like, to Heavyweighter to the stuff that's been more recent. Like, there's a real difference in the style of your production. And I wonder if it's just different equipment or different outlook.
I would say probably pretty much everything, different equipment, different outlook, vibrations, you know, basically doing what I do, basically.
Yeah. But do you hear a difference between the different projects? And do you think like it's a reflection of your environment or your mood or do you...
My production, my album, what you talking about?
I'm talking about the production.
Oh, for me, my production, personally.
Yeah, like, does a beat that you loved 20 years ago, do you still love it the same, or do you have a different kind of ear now? Like, do you have different tastes?
Yeah and no.
Like, back then, from the first album, you had, like, some real fucked up sounding stuff. Like, it sounded really low fidelity, whereas now, the more recent stuff...
I did that album on some old, by all means necessary type shit.
Yeah, you were working with what you had.
See, that's my style. That's what being a natural is about.
I will say, for me as a listener, I found that stuff a little bit more interesting because the way that the sound was so fucked up and noisy compared to your more recent stuff, that was what set it apart from a lot of other music, you know? The more recent stuff, it sounds better, like better quality and even more like musical sensibility. Like maybe you have a more mature understanding of melody and stuff.
I guess it's the equipment I use, or pretty much everything. I have more, but I always had a natural ear for like understanding sound. You know.
That's ridiculous. I ain't with that cheap shit. Real motherfuckers buying the chunk of bliss. You better get up on the MO. I don't do demos. This flow has come with me. I'm on the payroll getting lyrical. I'm a sample and you gotta pay for the clearance. Fuck your party. Don't hate because I get the freaks naughty. Drinks going around like the record spinning. If I'm not in your collection, your shit is missing. This how I'm
But I want to hear you go, like, I want to hear you use some of that old fucked up equipment again, man. I want to hear you go back to the noisy
I
shit.
can do that. I want to do that shit clear though.
Yeah.
I could do that shit with some clear shit. That noise, that make it noisy clear. Basically, you ready for a sensational album type shit.
Yeah, man.
You ready for some new sensational shit, basically. That's what it sounds like to me.
I'm ready.
I'm ready too.
Let's jump to the present. What's forthcoming? What should people be checking out right now?
I got this project I'm about to drop. It's called The Pearl.
The Pearl.
Yeah. That should be interesting.
Is it your production or someone else?
It's some different producers. The label's called NAF Records.
NAFF or what?
NAFF. I think they're from Canada, I think.
So we got multiple producers on this?
I'm not quite sure, if there's multiple producers on it.
All right, so this is me talking to the NAF Records co-owner and the co-producer of this project, Adam Feingold, aka Ex-Terrestrial. And he's telling me about how himself and his collaborator Priori conceived of this project.
I think it started with like just kind of making beats. Like the kind of zone that we were in when we were making these beats were around a time when we were both kind of like listening to a lot of like trip hop and ambient, that kind of zone of hip hop. And obviously like Sensational for me is like one of the most important rappers and of that kind of like weird offshoot of rap. So we were just kind of like making these beats kind of like really sludgy and like dark and broken and shit. And like, we're just like, what are we going to do with these beats? Like who would even think about rapping on this stuff, And it's like, okay, Sensational was like the only guy I could think of who would like understand what to do with this type of music. Like you could give him any messed up, crooked beat and he'll figure out a way to like, to draw inspiration from it, which is cool. And which is why a lot of dudes from our world have come to him over the years, like we're not the first guys in our like little scene to collaborate with him.
Yeah.
There's some guys from the Netherlands and from Norway, like the Sex Tags dudes and
Japan as well.
Japan, yeah. Like there's, he has like his followers of loyal weirdos, So it just seemed it is like the music came first, and then it was like I just heard Sensational on it. So we found him and asked him, and he was down.
Cool. Yeah, I as you know, I've had the pleasure of checking this out in advance. I think it's a great project, and
Thanks,
I think the beats are really fitting of him for sure.
Yeah.
What was your relationship working with Sensational like? Like, as everyone's gonna realize through this interview, like he's not your average Joe.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're working long distance, but how have your interactions been personally?
He's funny. Like he has a good sense of humor, and he kind of is like a kid at heart. Like he has like this weird imagination and kind of like he's funky, And when we talk about the music, he gets really excited, and you can tell that like he's super excited to like get the project going and like get moving and like stay busy with it, which is really awesome. And I don't know, I think he's just a one of a kind dude, and he is who he is. And like, if you appreciate that, and if you appreciate the requirements of like kind of getting into his zone to sort of like get on his level and like level with him in the way that he feels comfortable, then you can have a great working relationship, you know? We come from very different places and we're in very different places. And I live in Canada and he lives in the States. But from the beginning, it was like we broke the ice pretty quickly. And like, I feel like we kind of like cut out the bullshit pretty quick, which I also like, you know?
Yeah. He seems like a really in the moment person, like his zone, as you called it, you know,
Yeah.
if you get on his page, like his album is titled, like he's really just like, he's not thinking about the future or the past much.
No,
like I asked him a lot of questions about his history and he's just like kind of couldn't or wouldn't answer, you know, he's more just like all about the next thing, you know, not like the long-term future, but just like today and tomorrow, you know,
totally,
which is a strength and a weakness perhaps, but it's part of what makes him special. I feel like he's really just like, he's like one of those be here now type of dudes.
Totally. There's like some weird Zen mystical aspect to him that I don't know if it's deliberate or not, but yeah, it's part of his charm for sure. And, you know, I noticed that too. And when I was kind of like working on the bio for a release and stuff, I mentioned that like he's really not interested in looking backwards, like not interested in talking about any of that stuff. And like there's stuff to talk about, you know, like he grew up in New York. He was in the Jungle Brothers. Like what was all of that like, you know? Like I'd love to know.
Right.
But he's not about that really.
Yeah.
Did he open up about that to you in any way? Like,
honestly, like it seemed like I was like, man, did he just smoke way too much weed? Like he just can't remember. But it's like the mind frame doesn't hold on to a lot of those past experiences, I think. Similarly, I wanted to ask him too, like to like intellectualize his process and his approach to art and music, you know, like
how did that go?
He's just like, I do what I do, man. I just do what I do. I don't know. You know, like, do you know that you're going against the grain? Do you compare yourself? He's just like, I'm just me. I don't know.
It's crazy.
But maybe I can ask you, what were your first impressions when you heard Sensational's music and how would you describe it to people?
The first track I heard was like probably in 2014 or 15 when I was like just discovering ambient, which is like a specific genre. I found it on Discogs and I heard this track called Pillars of Smoke. I don't know if you know Pillars of Smoke.
Is it Spectre?
Yeah, Spectre. So it's Spectre featuring Sensational.
Blow pop, cocksucker trip, type of front like you the shit. Prepared by the gift, shift gears with the shift touch. In your mind with the design, elastic speech. Our man-made nature, bite you like a gator, make you scream like you won the lotto. I rock the show with no rehearsal. My name is Sensational, I'm live like roaches. Scope this, I do hocus pocus.
And like the video was so sick and his vibe was just amazing and his verse was killer. Like I just loved it. Like I loved the like kind of rawness and the moody, doomy, smoked out vibe of it. And if you're in that headspace, it's just perfect, you know? And then I got into his solo work and like his first record, what is it, Loaded with Power?
Yeah, Loaded with Power.
It's amazing, you know? It's just like, if you like that kind of thing, if you like kind of like stripped back, kind of lo-fi raw beats and his crazy weirdo raps, like just no one raps like him. He's literally one of a kind, you know? Like there's no one that's ever done what he has done in rap. And I think a lot of people don't really know about him. And like, he has his own place in rap, period. You know, if you're thinking about the history of it, like he owns his own little weird island that no one else touches. So yeah, man, I've just been like, I've always come back to that record, to Loaded with Power. And then like, after starting to speak with him, I got onto his Bandcamp and I didn't know that he put out so many subsequent records. I just like, he just throws them on there and they're just like so freaked out. Like the beats are wonky as hell and he's sampling all types of shit that you would never think to sample, but it makes sense in his universe. And the artwork is all crazy and tripped out. And as a fan of rap, as like a head and like a bit of a nerd who cares about the history of things, he's an anomaly.
Yeah. And I'll just echo what you were saying about his Bandcamp. I highly recommend people check it out because I think maybe even a lot of the fans are not familiar with a lot of his more recent work. And it's really up to par, I think, with his earliest stuff. It's still just as strange and interesting.
Yeah.
So I would say go check out sensational1.bandcamp.com.
Yes.
And so when is this new project coming out?
So the physical's coming out in May, and the digis are going to drop sometime in February, probably early February. And,
okay, cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting, man. Like I'm excited for him to get like another chance to be out there and for people to catch wind of him. And I think now is actually a really good time for this sound and for like his sound and discography, because people are really catching on to like down tempo and like ambient and trip hop, and it's kind of like ambient times. It's kind of like ill times right now. Like there's that feeling in the air, so it kind of captures like a bit of the zeitgeist in a way. So I feel like people are going to really like it, and hopefully tap into his world, and like we want him to like drop some merch, because he has like these old he has some backstock from like 10 years ago probably or something like that, of like some sick merch that he did, and like we kind of want to bring that back and try to help him like get on his feet as much as possible and take the opportunity of this platform to gain some new fans.
Excellent. Yeah, and people can follow NAF, NAFF, nafrecordings.bandcamp.com.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Popping up, busting up flow like this. Program to flip it, trip it. Yeah, that speed blazing that fatty. I'm on it like that. Kick my rap, random with the hot shit. Lay it down heavy on the bass. That's always what it is. Sensational, perfect timing with the rhymes. I hooked up the beat, the bump in the speakers.
What's your most proud work as far as an album goes? What do you think is like your best one that you'd like people to hear?
The one I ain't do yet. The one I want to record in a big ass studio, a spaceship studio with leather couches and fruit in a basket type of shit.
If you were in a nice fancy recording studio, if you had a huge budget, you could hire any musicians that you wanted, any vocalists or whatever. What kind of a thing would you create?
Yo, my G, it'll be that sensational shit. It'll really be that sensational shit, yo. It's something about being in the studio with fruit in the basket and leather couches. And I experienced that with the Jungle Brothers.
Yeah.
It's just a different sound with a professional studio and shit like that.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
You can get a cleaner, more professional sound, but does it change your approach too? Like
it'll be more clear. About weird shit be clearer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the weird shit even clearer type shit. Yeah. I like to do that one day. I like to record the whole album like that with my production type shit.
I'd like to hear that too.
Other people, like, you know what I'm saying, they got cool beats and shit like that, but there's something about a sensational beat, yo.
But I would worry as a listener, as a fan, I would be like, Sensational's gonna make his worst album yet. He's got the professional sound, all that grit, all that noise is gonna be gone.
Nah, I'm a natural dog. You heard?
Well, do you want to talk about, like, you've gone through rough times, you've gone through patches of homelessness and shit. Can we talk about those struggles, or do you want to leave that alone?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
All right. So, you were doing pretty well as a musician. You got like maybe 4 or 5 albums out at this point. You got one on Matador or something, some big label.
I don't remember what I have.
Anyway, from the first album to then, you're like getting more and more attention, you're doing well, you're making money, and then you somehow end up homeless. How does it go from there to there?
How did I end up homeless? Gotta think about it right quick.
I mean, from watching the documentary, it involved probably not managing your money very well. You didn't save much money, I guess, as part of it.
No. What happened? I'm trying to remember. Like, it's kind of like blur and shit.
Yeah.
It's hazy and shit.
I hear you. If you can't remember, that's fine. You can't remember.
I remember like certain things and shit. Like different situations, and I'm trying to find out like beginning of the situation of the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of that whole zone, that whole phase type shit. Cause I didn't grow up homeless. You know what I mean? I didn't grow up homeless and shit like that. So
So while obviously Sensational has a bit of a hazy memory around a lot of his past, next up you'll hear me speaking to Liz Moore, who did a full-length documentary on Sensational and got to know the ins and outs of his life around the time that we're discussing. So here she is.
I met him officially in 2004. He was outside peddling his music on Broadway and West 4th Street, very popular area at the time, for a lot of hip hop artists to sell their work. I ran into him and his partner in crime, Kev Hutch. And before I knew it, I was kind of just hanging out with them all the time and following them around. And that lasted from 2004 until 2009. I mean, when I met him, I had no idea he made that kind of music. He looked like a really kind of normal hip hop guy who wouldn't be experimental at all. And then I heard his music and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. I couldn't believe it. And then I found out, more and more about how he had this career before and how he had been with Jungle Brothers and recorded Bill Laswell and then did his whole Wordsound thing. And I kind of met up with him after all that was over.
Right.
Because working with Wordsound was kind of waning. They weren't really doing albums, but they were occasionally touring. But he was kind of down and out when I met him. He'd crash here, he'd crash there. He had like a network of friends that he just kind of lived off of their couch. And I think he had been homeless maybe a couple years before I met him. Yeah, it was kind of rough for him. I think sometimes he couldn't find a place to crash. And so he would just sleep on the train. He did that numerous times. Like I said, when I met him, I had no idea what he was about. He just, he wanted to be a rapper and he just kind of hit on girls all the time. And he just wanted to party. That was kind of my impression of him. Yeah. And then as I got to know him, I found him to be pretty profound in his thinking. And yeah, he's actually a very complex person. Very complex. And very intelligent in his way.
Yeah.
And super, super creative. And he just sees the world like his own way. He doesn't live by society's rules. He's very much like kind of an outsider, and that really attracted me because to me, like he's like the consummate artist. Like he's all art and nothing else, he's just an artist. Like the superego is just not there.
Yeah.
He's like devoid of a super ego. It's just all kind of this is what I am, this is what I'm doing, and if you don't like it, fuck you. And that to me was like amazing. And he had a great energy to be around. For the most part, he's a great person to collaborate with. He'll bring things to the table you didn't think of. He can have an amazing sense of humor. He's sometimes just hilarious. He does hilarious things. He says hilarious things. I've had my ups and downs with him for sure, but I don't regret for a minute any of the time I spent with him. I was always kind of amazed that during this whole time that I knew him, where he was just really kind of down and out, he didn't have a phone. He didn't have any place to live. He was just kind of improvising every day. And he still would manage, though, to somehow record new music. And he would press it up in these CDs. And he would go out in the street. And he really did kind of treat it like a job. He'd stand in front of Fat Beats. All sorts of guys would come and sell their CDs. And it was great for everybody because, a lot of famous hip hop artists and DJs and music people were always going in and out. And so some people can make connections there. And it was a great place to sell your music because that's where the hip hop fans were congregating, So he was out there with kind of a group of guys, some of them in the movie. He would go out there many times a week, if not all week, and sell, 10 CDs, make his money so that he could eat, literally.
Yeah.
And this is how he lived. And everything he owned was literally in the pockets of his baggy jeans. And you would not believe how much shit he could fit in these pockets. He had so much shit, and it was like a Doctor Who TARDIS or something inside those pockets. There was so much. Like, how the hell do you fit all that? But he had everything he owned literally in the pockets of his jeans. That's pretty crazy. And this didn't bother him, but he was just really focused on music anyway. Like, he just lived for music. He literally lives for music and to go party. Occasionally. And like, if he ever got like some money, he'd probably be up in the club at night, having a good time. And then he'd find somewhere to like go do a new song, maybe with Kev Hutch or all the different people he's meeting. And he was constantly collaborating with people who would, somehow get a hold of him, which at the time is pretty rough because this is like kind of pre-internet. This was like kind of, right before MySpace started, and he didn't have a phone or access to a computer. So it was really rough for him during that period because, there was no way to find him. And it was rough for me as a filmmaker because I couldn't find him either. Right. I didn't know where the hell he was half the time. And he'd show up maybe after a week of being kind of missing. He'd have to like borrow someone's phone and call me. Hey, I'm over here. You want to meet up? Or sometimes he'd be in my neighborhood and he'd stop by. Or Kev Hutch was always a great conduit to tracking him down because he touched base with Kev Hutch often. But there were times when I would just have to kind of go walk around New York and just put the word out that, hey, we need you in an interview. Where are you? Has anyone seen him? I got to know like the guys that run the newspaper kiosk, like near Fat Beats, and just this whole network of people I had to go find and be like, hey, if you see Sensational, tell them to call me. I didn't know if I really had a film because every time I saw him, I didn't know if I was going to see him again.
Right.
Sometimes he'd disappear for a while, and I'm like, my God, where is he? Is he dead? And I'd find out eventually that, he had a little stint, maybe in jail, or he was a frequent visitor to Bellevue.
Right.
He was honestly pretty well behaved around me. I didn't see any of the real crazy drama stuff that he probably got involved with. But he would be like, away, incarcerated or something. It's terrible. Like I was like, am I ever going to see you again? So I honestly didn't even know if I really had a film until maybe the last year of that.
Yeah, well, it has a great arc. You kind of end it on a positive note, which I guess depended a lot on him finally getting more connected to the internet.
The internet was a really big deal. I taught him how to like get on Facebook and MySpace and all that. And that really opened up so many possibilities because now these guys from Europe could hit him up.
Yeah.
And he was getting people to send him money so he could record tracks. So yeah, the internet was a game changer for him to be able to be more international, I guess, and also more independent.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have to go in front of Fat Beats. He could just do a track for a guy in Germany. And I think he's done tracks for just about everybody who lives in Germany at this point, the whole entire country. He's collaborated with so many people. Like his work ethic, like once he sat down and really started working on a track, I mean, he was really laser focused. We did this one session. He was hired by this artist named Curver from Iceland. And we went down to Tony Mamoni's studio in South Brooklyn. And Tony, played the track for him. And then I watched the session take like 2 hours to write the lyrics. And then he recorded the track. It was just like all done in 5 hours. And it came out great. But yeah, I mean, he really sits down and gets super focused and creative. And it was interesting because, I kind of saw him on the street as this kind of, hey, can I get your number, guy? hitting on girls and cracking jokes and stuff, to just being super professional, really like very a different person when he's actually doing the art. Very incredibly talented. The beats he makes, watching him work is just inspiring, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he definitely seems driven as an artist, if nothing else. Like his music seems to be the one thing that he takes seriously in life.
Absolutely. And I don't think he takes anything else seriously, but he definitely takes that seriously. I thought he was a pretty good actor, actually. I thought he did a great job in Crooked, as his film. He takes direction really well. I mean, he's easy to work with as far as like, he's kind of a natural in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was disappointing that he never had like an acting career.
He needs a manager, probably.
Yeah. But I don't think he would tolerate a manager, to be honest with you. He's just an incredibly unique individual, and to the point where it's sort of detrimental to his life,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, your story, your documentary wraps up nicely, like he's on the upward swing, but in reality, it's like he's sort of just blowing in the wind. It seems like he's got ups and downs, and he's always going to have an audience and a certain amount of support, but he's definitely living on the edge.
I mean, yeah, I probably should have named the film The Rise and Fall and Rise ... To be continued.
For a long time, though, you were in a spot which was kind of legendary, known as the Bomb Shelter, your recording studio.
Oh, yo. Yeah, buddy. The Bomb Shelter, baby, yeah. Yo, that's something I call my professional studio. You know what I'm saying? Because I need to get this album done, recorded professional one time, baby. So you can get the full effect of that sensational boom bass shit. Real talk. You heard? I need that done. I need that sonic. They call it sonic the acoustics. The sonic the acoustics. Yeah, buddy. Yo, when I get into that, yo, man, I'm telling you, I'm pretty much a natural.
But when we bring up the Bomb Shelter, you get a big smile on your face.
Yeah, I done zoned out. I done forgot. I forgot what we were talking about. Yeah, baby. Oh, the Bomb Shelter. That's why I produced. What came from the Bomb Shelter?
I'm guessing the second album, the third album.
Yeah.
The first one was somewhere else, right?
Yeah, the Bomb Shelter was that was in Brooklyn on Sitmonks Avenue.
I'm guessing it's around 98 or so after your first album has come out that you get that spot, right?
Yeah, that's in my building I grew up in.
So what's the Bomb Shelter like? Is it like a basement? Is it just a room full of equipment?
Yeah, it was my bedroom. I had like clothes all over it and shit like that. My room used to be mad messy, yo.
So it looked like a bomb went off in there. Is that why you called it that?
My pops cleaned it up for me a couple of times. I was like, yo, this shit looks nice. Man, I had messy like that forever. It's crazy. But it wasn't messy like that. It was just clothes.
Now, did you have other people in there working with you, or was it mostly just a place where you would work by yourself?
Yeah, it was a place where I worked by myself. Probably a select few came through. Probably that's kind of hazy, but that's basically myself, the Bomb Shelter.
Yeah, that was his apartment in Crown Heights.
This is Guy Albino of the Hard Gangster Rappers MCs with Ghatz, who got to know Sensational pretty well, had him as part of his band, and did a lot of recording for quite a few years.
At one point, he must have got a nice check and bought like a bunch of dope gear, and he had himself set up. And like I had told you before, he was recording and producing some other people, just kind of like in his own way, kind of like spreading out and being like his like Lee Perry, sort of like, I'll do beats for this singer. And he had done some beats for this female singer.
The one thing he told me about the Bomb Shelter is that it was very messy, and that was maybe why it had the name it did.
I guarantee you that his dad probably gave it that name.
Right.
His family's real supportive, man. He's like his dad, his brothers, like I see them in flicks on FB, like he'll go to like family reunions and stuff. I'm always happy to see that.
Nice.
Truth be told, like the Bomb Shelter is wherever he is. So it started out when he was probably still living with his parents, and his bedroom was probably called the Bomb Shelter, and then he moved somewhere. That's the Bomb Shelter. Sensational, like all his catchphrases and the things about him, like Chunk of Bliss, all that stuff. That's like his universe. That's his place. And he did have a pretty amazing crew of guys. I don't know if you're familiar with like Chameleon or like Kev Hutch.
We all got pulled in this game for the fame, not the dough. Kev Hutch bout to blow, pop the mo. You see the cork when it busts, feel the rush. Rush, dust, gun bust, never do trust. Chameleon here, you heard, and that's my word. The known Brooklyn cleared the kid, nothing but curves. You feel like you want beef, should never be sweet. The vegetarians they turn, running these streets. You feel like my game is tight.
Chameleon's a Brooklyn guy who very much had this kind of Jay-Z, like, kind of emotional sort of like, pitch to his voice when he'd rap, that Jay is really famous for. He was really lyrical, more kind of like feet on the ground lyrical, like the way we expect rappers to be.
Sure.
Like, so even within his circles, Sensational was an anomaly. I mean, and, you take it all the way back to, JB's with the Remedy.
Yeah. You mentioned his slang. I think that's a cool thing to touch on, like Chunk of Bliss and Freak Styler. What other turns of phrase did he come up with?
I don't know. I mean, he always just has like a new moniker. Like he's the heavyweighter. He's this.
Yeah.
Even just like that sewing up avenues.
Right.
Like just the way he like describes like how he's making moves. It's like so unto him.
I like Crispies.
Oh yeah. I like Crispies. That's an early one. That's man. That's so good. That track, what really, for anybody that's like not into rap, that just wants to hear some like really interesting music, like Skittin' and Scattering on the first record with that fucked up beat. And then you realize like he's flowing to that beat. Like it's going nuts. It sounds like a broken clock. And then he's fucking flowing on it. And then you hear his older brother come in and go, yo, what is he saying? He's like, yo, that's that shit. little bro. And it's like, that's actually his brother who's just like sticking his head in the room, listening and like chiming in.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is some old smooth shit, little bro. One time.
Gets down, check out the sound, check out this hour spinning around.
How about his like distribution and selling and promoting of the music? Because that's a big part of what he does too.
Hey, I mean, a lot of times it's him out there, just wherever he's at. He's got like a bag full of his stuff. You know, it could be like at a house party. You know, like I introduced him to some of my friends, and everybody was just like instantly like sensational mania. Like they were all like, yo, this guy's really fucking good. This is insane. And we would throw these parties in Greenpoint and have like a mic open, you know, and have like a freestyle session. And sometimes he would jump in, but they were like debaucherous, insane, like fucking crazy, late night, like into the morning kind of parties. And he would hang with it and he would stay there. He would just like hang out and be like, I'm going to crash, and just like end up like kind of like hanging out with my friends for a while without me, just to kind of like, he just stayed and like everybody became cool with him and hung out. And, you know, sometimes, you know, they weren't really like prepared for the sensational experience, you know, but you know, sometimes there were dudes there that were like totally ready, totally up for it. And, you know, he would just make friends anywhere. You know, if there was some kind of connection where he could like, oh, you know, oh, you smoke weed or you deal weed or you, you know, that's going to be his, you know, his homeboy for a while, and they would hang out. But, you know, I think that he was just, you know, when it came down to it and he knew that this is how he was going to get money, he would just be very tenacious and be like, always have fucking merch on him. And so it was like amongst all the people that worked with him, that was the best thing you could do, is like make sure he was like flush with merch so that he could sell stuff on the street if he wanted to. I don't really know how all the relationships went with his labels and stuff. He's a pure artist, man. I don't know if he like takes that much time on that part of it. He's not like trying to get his percentages or his like, you know, back end, or, you know, he's just like, give me an advance, I'll make you an album.
Yeah, he seems to be very focused on the hand-to-hand sales, but beyond that, it seems like he doesn't think that much about the long-term business or anything like that.
Yeah, which, you know, can get you into a pinch sometimes. But yeah, you know, there were like those few glimmers where it seemed like sales were going to kind of jump for him. Like he had that like Wire cover, and I thought that's so cool that the Wire is doing an article on him. This is going to happen now, that people will know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it did anything. And then Mike Patton did that one record with him, and that was another moment where you're like, oh, cool, wow, this is going to happen. And then he has those singles on Matador. But all, you know, these are cool things for him. These are all like kind of brushes with sort of like potential success, and you know, starting on Warner Brothers with the Jungle Brothers, and then kind of Wordsound, and then people kind of like getting it and like wanting to help them. But music, man, the music industry it's a difficult thing to navigate.
Yeah, it gets more and more difficult, I think, for especially someone like him.
Yeah, it's just like I said, I have to compare him to like a Monk or like fucking Lee Scratch, where it's like at one point, I think Lee sort of like really got on his business shit when he started working with people in the UK and stuff. And you saw that he had that kind of sensibility where he was going to like get his money. But I still think that like those types of creatives, it's like you just have to let them loose and do their thing, and they kind of have like a willful sense of the way they're going to operate. And I don't know if money's always at the forefront of that. Like I said, man, he's just an artistic spirit. And it's like, when there's those people in the world, you just got to help them. You just got to try to kind of like push them in the right direction. And also just sort of like, if you can do something, try to look out, because it's like, we need those people.
Definitely.
You know, we're still talking about him because it's like he pushes holes in reality for us to look into and be like, oh shit, there's more. You know, he's reaching, and it's so easy to sort of like practice being what you're supposed to be and then sell it. And he never did that.
My family sold the building.
So you just had to move out because of that?
Yeah. So, I didn't grow up homeless and shit. But
in that documentary, you almost seemed like once you were homeless, you almost seemed comfortable with it. Was that true or?
Not really.
Like you'd make money instead of saving it up to work towards like getting a spot, you'd blow it on like a night out at the bar, right?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking on being responsible or something to that effect. I guess.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's normal for a lot of people, especially when you're young,
Yeah.
Do you think you've changed since then? Are you more thinking about the future now and less kind of living in the moment than you used to be? Or do you think you're the same old guy?
Kind of both.
Well, I think most people are both, We live in the moment and we live in the future and we live in the past. But it seemed like back then you were really all about the moment.
Yeah. Kind of so
I think he's a talented dude, but his perspective is different than other people that I've come across in the business.
Now here to shed a little more light on what makes Sensational tick, it's his longtime friend and collaborator, Kev Hutch.
He creates his own lane. He's a trendsetter. His perspective is different than others, He has his own vision for whatever it is,
Yeah.
The sounds that people wouldn't use, he knows how to use. Everything is raw material. I've seen him do some amazing things,
As like a fellow salesman standing out there in front of fat beats with him, selling CDs, how would you describe Sensational's sort of street hustle and his vibe out on the sidewalk, his whole attitude towards pushing his music on people, and how would his approach compare to like yours and the other guys out there doing the same thing?
Well, when I was out there, my objective was to sell my albums, make a certain quota at the end of the day. Sensational, he was more socializing. I guess the pop was bigger when it came to him because he would sell his album. The people would invite him to a party. Next thing you know, we at the party, the money that he has that he made from the album, so he spends it in the party. So it's just a weird vibe, but he goes with the moment. I mean, tomorrow he's like, don't worry about today. Tomorrow we could do the same thing all over again.
Yeah.
He knows how to talk to people, His personality is amazing with meeting people, So we were like two oddballs together.
Yeah.
It was some good times. And, I missed the days of being on the street selling albums with him. It was never a dry moment. His drive and his focus is there. Even when I'm not on point, he picks me up,
Yeah.
He's been there for me a whole lot. He's a good friend to have. There was moments when I really didn't know him that well when he used to come to my house when I lived in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of like just the guy on the couch. I used to be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing here? You know what I mean? And he'd just be like, yo, he's passed the blunt to him. It was like half baked. He's just the guy on the couch. And one day we just kind of vibed, and he was always a good friend. Getting in the studio with him became even more serious because I seen a different side of him, especially when we worked on JB's with the Remedy, the Jungle Brother album.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So you were there for the Crazy Wisdom Masters recordings too, when they were just going totally wild. I mean, I love the JBs with the Remedy album too, but that Crazy Wisdom Masters stuff is, to me, just beautiful.
We was ahead of our time.
For sure.
There was no samples on that album. All of it was raw. Drum machines, bass, the keys, everything was raw. People couldn't understand how we used to rock offbeat.
Right.
It sounded offbeat, but it really wasn't offbeat. It was like being in a karate movie. Everybody had their own style. And Sensational had his own particular style. You know, it's just a lot of people just kind of downplayed it because it wasn't what the industry wanted.
Yeah, so he kind of went on this journey then from just kind of having fun, creating stuff with the Jungle Brothers, then going on tour, starting his own solo career, and then developing like a cult following of sorts from that. He had a sort of gradual rise career-wise. And then, of course, eventually he had a bit of a downfall, eventually going homeless. So I wonder if, being there that whole time, I wonder if you can describe, like, how did that all progress and why did it go that way?
Well, I think he got too caught up with the lifestyle. Being on tour and then coming back to the States, he was still mentally on tour. When it came to making music, he was still in those sessions. So he was thinking small, but bigger things was happening around him. And he, kind of fell in the cracks, His pops ended up moving out. He lost his apartment and he just was trying to pick the pieces up all over again. I think he just kind of lost his way,
Yeah, just too focused on having a good time.
Right. And that's what it basically was. It was every day was a party. Yeah, he ended up getting married, and I think that slowed him down and put him back in perspective with his music. He just lost his path for a minute. But he's picking things back up, and he's going to be back in rotation.
I'm into this new project coming out called The Pearl. That shit gonna be ill, yo. That shit gonna be ill. Yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
I think it's gonna remind you of Sensational.
Are you doing production lately? Are you doing your own beats for anything?
Yeah and no, but I need to get into that year zone.
You need to what?
I need to get into that year zone.
Yeah, zone. Yeah. I mean, do you have the equipment to make stuff?
It's coming here and there.
Yeah. Because for me as a fan, I want to hear a lot of your projects where you're working with other producers, especially the real out there stuff like that Kuhei album and some of the other more noisy experimental stuff. Like, I love that. But I really like hearing you over your own stuff too. That's what the fans want.
That's coming. It's coming one way or another. But the way I would like to do it is in a boom ass studio with fruit in the basket and leather couches and shit like that.
Don't you think that's a little unrealistic at this moment, though? I mean, how's that going to happen? Are you going to try to do a fundraiser or hoping for some wealthy
I thought about that.
benefactor to fund you?
I thought about that. We should figure that out. Yeah, let's figure that out.
Well, we do have the ongoing GoFundMe that's still running. No one has contributed to it for a while, but we got the Sensational GoFundMe. You can find that linked at weirdrap.com. But that's really more just funding your day-to-day shit. But you'd need a big budget to do what you're talking about, I think, This isn't just like a few $100 or $1,000. you're looking at like a 10, 15,000 bucks at least for your fruit in the basket goal.
Yeah, probably. Definitely more than that. You know.
Well, if there's any wealthy princes out there, you know, some royalty with extra cash that's a Sensational fan, put them up in a studio with a fruit in the basket and the whole nine. You know, I think you deserve
Leather
that.
couches.
Leather couches, yes.
Basket and leather couches. What? The acoustics, the sonic. Yo. Man.
Now, what about like personal massage therapists or, you know?
Personal massage therapists?
Why stop at the fruit in the basket?
Okay. All right. Just put it that way. I'll be happy on some real shit. I'll be happy with that studio, yo.
Yeah.
Straight up.
All right. So, wealthy benefactors out there, you heard it here. You can get in touch with me or Sensational. But yeah, man, you're a legend. You're a wonderful artist. And I think you do deserve the fancy studio treatment.
Yeah, for sure. That's all I really want.
So is that it, man? Anything else? Any last words?
You tell me.
Yeah, I ran through my questions. I feel like you've been a little cagey. There's some shit you didn't want to talk about so much, but that's okay.
No.
But I think part of that is you're like me. Like, I don't have a great memory of the past, right?
Well, I don't have a great one. It's like kind of vague.
Yeah.
But, you know, like certain points and shit like that. It's like, it's like, wow. That's crazy.
Throughout your life, how do you look back on it? Do you think it's like it's been a pretty good life? I know there's been some rough times. I guess you must look at it as ups and downs, like a roller coaster or something.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Kind of learning experience. And, you know, it's kind of interesting.
What do you feel like you've learned over the years?
What I learned over the years.
Well, you said you've changed over the years, so how have you changed?
How I changed?
Yeah.
I said I changed?
I think you did, yeah. Well, earlier I was like, you know, you seem like a happy-go-lucky guy who's like laughing and joking and like shrugging off the hard times, but you said not so much these days, you know, like you're not as carefree as you used to be, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's going with the my family's selling the building.
Yeah. So you feel like you have less of a foundation, less of a safety net?
Nah, it wasn't even that. It was just frame of mind thinking. My thinking back then.
So you thought you had an idea of where you'd end up in the future, and now you don't? Is that what it is?
No, not even.
Sorry, I'm putting words in your mouth because you're not putting any out.
What was that?
I'm just trying to figure out what you're trying to say.
You made me lose my train of thought now.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but basically, what was your question?
I don't know. You were talking about how the selling
being carefree or being responsible type shit. That's kind of the question or the answer that you're looking for.
Maybe it's a bad question. I was trying to look for something like, you know, I used to be like this and now I'm different because I learned this, or some nice little bow at the end of this interview, some poetic way to end it. But, you know, maybe that's barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, it's kind of barking up the wrong tree.
So it's an unfinished story, right? You're still,
I ain't do what I want to do yet, man. I like to start in the that studio though, with the fruit in the basket and the leather couches though. I like to start there.
Do you have any conception of what else you might like to do, whether it's after that happens or in addition to that?
Well,
what do you want in life, Sensational?
I know I definitely want the fruit, with the couch, studio type shit, right?
I mean, what if that was your home? Wouldn't that be better if you just had a nice home studio with a fruit in the basket?
Yeah and no, but it gotta be like that studio though.
You want to live in luxury.
It sounds like, yeah, it gotta be like that. It gotta be like that sonic, yo. The sonic and acoustic is real. That's real shit.
It's kind of, it's kind of funny. It's kind of ironic that you're like, you've been down and out, like, on the verge of homelessness here and there, and you're not going to be satisfied with anything less than like plush, luxurious, the opposite of, the depths of where you've been. You don't just want stability, a decent roof over your head, and comfort. You want luxury.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. And anything less than luxury, you take it or leave it, or what?
Well, anything less than the studio, anything with the studio, anything less than luxury, I don't want it.
All right.
With the studio, anything less than luxury, I don't want it, baby. Nah, I don't want it. Get back. How about that? Yeah.
All right. That's a high note to end on.
Yeah. That's I say that to show you I love what I do, yo.
Yeah.
I love what I do. I love what I do.
That's good. I could see that, you're proud of your work and you put your soul and heart into it.
I do it my way. What?
Yeah.
Do it my way.
Yeah, you're not compromising. You're being 100% you.
When it comes to the housing situation, I work with the housing.
You don't need a mansion?
That'll be nice. But I take a penthouse. Take a penthouse. And I could probably, it wouldn't be after about the studio, but it'd kind of be like, it'd be similar to the couches and the from the basket. But then again, fucking with me, knowing me, how much I love what I fucking do, I will get it built in my crib like that. In the house, I would get it like, yo, bought it. I would go in like that.
Yeah. I want that for you.
Yeah, with the same level of fruit in the basket. Hey, I bring it home. Matter of fact, I've seen like a couple of people have studios in any spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But it gotta have that sonic and fucking acoustic stuff.
Sure.
And the space and the board. Definitely the speakers. Come on, man. Don't play with me. Don't play with me, man. I don't play with my watch, yo. I don't play with my watch.
Your wattage?
It's in it like that. It's in it like that. I don't play with my watch.
All right.
All right?
All right, man.
Good.
All right. So I want you to know that I have set up a GoFundMe for Sensational, as this presentation has probably illustrated. He's not great with money. He's just the type of person that can use a helping hand. So that's one way you can support him. Another way is to buy his album, which Weird Rap is happy to be reselling. His first album, Loaded with Power. We got the CDs unearthed from the Wordsound basement, and we are selling those. You can find that as well as the GoFundMe at weirdrap.com. And of course, you can also go to Sensational's own Bandcamp, sensational1.bandcamp.com. And We're going to call that an episode. Oh, but if you do want more, we have the bonus episode. This episode features Skiz Fernando getting deeper into Sensational's production techniques and their run-ins together with Busta Rhymes and Wu-Tang. Guy Albino details his history with Sensational and the Wordsound Collective, working on Sensational's movie, Crooked, and much more. Kev Hutch talks about a wild night out with Sensational. And then we debut an exclusive, unreleased Sensational song from the early aughts. Our other bonus episodes include exclusive interviews with Dose One, Skiz Fernando, Anti-Pop Consortium, New Kingdom, Cambada, Odd Nostom, Mike Ladd, and more. That's at patreon.com/weirdrap for just $3. Another way you can support Weird Rap is to go to weirdwrap.com/rating and click around there. There's various ways that you can rate and review and help us with the algorithms. It really would mean a lot. This podcast, this whole operation operates in the margins, and it seems to be just destined to stay that way, which means we're not going to become like the dad bod rap pod, you know? We're not going to have a whole lot of supporters. We just don't appeal to most people. So if you do care about this, any little bit of support, it means a lot. And we need you. I need you to keep going on. I like compliments. I'll also accept criticism. Recently, Spoke Matombo, MC I respect very highly, said, "I'm the most annoying host of the best podcast." Pretty double-edged comment there. But, you know, I want to know how I can be better. I want to know how I can be less annoying. I want to know what you like, what you don't like. So feel free to put it in a review or send me a message at weirdrap3000@gmail.com. And I guess that does it. Till next time.